All right, the Pete Souza Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network, presented by Slovaceks, Crawford Austin Properties, and now welcoming the great Terrance Gannaway to the show. Terrance, what's up, man?
Pete, thanks for having me. Nothing much. Just excited to be on the show with you.
Well, I'm excited to have you because I really want to get your opinion. I watched you play. I've also seen some of your work in sports media, and you're really good. And I want to hear what you have to say about Bill Belichick taking this job at North Carolina. Can he succeed at the college level, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think so. It's going to look different than what we see and have seen in college. And I bet you it'll be a little bit different from what Mac Brown has done. But when I look at the likes of Nick Saban, Dabo, Kirby Smart, and Bill Belichick, they know what it takes to run a top-notch program. Whether they're winning a ton of games, they always find a way to get back on the right track. And I think that starts with building a culture at the top, and all of that flows downhill. It'll be interesting to see who Bill Belichick brings to be alongside him as an OC in the DC. I think he's talking about having his son. There's a lot of things floating out there about some of the things that needed to take place in order to land him. But I think UNC is going to put their money where their mouth is, and they're going to support him. And, there's one thing about Bill Belichick. He wants to hold people accountable. And in a day and age where a lot of college athletes are getting paid, holding them accountable to their success is probably a really big thing, especially will help them translate to the NFL.
So you are, you've evolved as a man, but you're not too far removed, Terrance, whether you say you are or not, from that kid at 17, 18 years old in DeKalb, Texas, where you got coaches coming through the living room, where people are blowing your phone up, trying to get you to go to school, wherever. You ended up going to Houston before you transferred to Baylor. But could you see yourself connecting with a guy like Bill Belichick? He's getting a little older. And I know that recruiters, right, assistant coaches play a big role in that. But do you think that could hurt him at all? Any kind of disconnection with young guys?
I mean, Nick Saban and him were the same age, or similar ages. Nick Saban was doing it at a high level just last year for Alabama. I think there's some reverence that come with Bill Belichick and what he's been able to produce and do in the NFL. I think he's the second all-time winningest coach in the NFL. I think he's going to garner the respect and the attention of these kids. Hey, you can come play for, $500,000 NIL deal, or you can play for $200,000 and you can be a first-round draft pick, and you can set yourself up for the rest of your life. I think his proposition to these young athletes and their parents is, I'm not just trying to get your kid to be an excellent star, not only in the classroom now that he'll have to think about, but also on the practice field. But how can I prepare these kids for life? And with a rapidly changing environment of college athletics with NIL and the amount of money that's being thrown at these kids, I think he's going to be a calm, sound, reasoning voice. As for me, and the question you asked, could I see myself playing for Bill Belichick? Buddy Ray was my head coach, and then Fred Thrower and Coach Anderson were three coaches that I had in high school, and they felt like Bill Belichick every day of the week because even though I knew I was the best athlete on the team, they never let me dip up under the standard. The standard is the standard. The expectations are set, and we're going to wake up every day and we're going to, put on our big boy clothes and go to work to achieve those. So I think that translates to any business, any sports organization, and definitely from a cultural thing that UNC needs to have in order to be where they want to. And they have a big endowment and they got money to shift around. And I think they're going to commit to having at least giving Bill Belichick everything he needs to be successful in the next 12 months.
Were you, the last question on this, and we'll get you back to your roots, your alma mater here, talking Big 12 football. But were you shocked at this news? I had heard, he was kind of flirting with North Carolina, but I never bought it. And then, that shows, how much there's so much we don't know, right, about these situations unless you're up close on them. But were you surprised somebody with the experience like you have?
I wasn't. It started picking up steam when you heard some of the negotiations pre this all being official. I mean, you're not talking about putting more money, building the nutrition, making sure your son has an opportunity and a chance to be in line for next head coach. Those conversations don't happen unless you're very close to the end. And I think they did exactly what they needed to do to land Bill Belichick. And I know he's going to be he's going to try to put his best foot forward. And so I'm not surprised. I am eager to see the staff that he gets together there at UNC because, to your point, I don't think Bill Belichick is a lovey-dovey guy. You're going to, have this guy come into your house, and I don't think he's going to oversell you. I think he's a straight shooter from what I've seen watching him from afar for the past, 25 years. And he's going to be honest with these guys, and he's going to get everything out of these guys that he can. And if they believe in that, UNC will have some success.
All right, so success has come back to Baylor after, lukewarm season last year and then some early struggles this year. The Baylor turnaround this season, I mean, again, someone like you've seen it all, you've experienced it all at the highest of levels. What do you think went into that? Why did things work out for Dave Aranda and the Baylor Bears this season? Because you know how it goes. Like when you're following a team and you're a fan or you're a member of the media or I get to call games, like it's easy to become a prisoner of the moment, but inside that room, Dave Aranda and his staff and obviously the players still believed. What do you think was the key for their turnaround?
I think Dave Aranda getting closer to the guys. Not saying he wasn't. I'm not super close to the team, and so I don't want to misspeak. But when I think about Dave Aranda being a CEO and him being a defensive play caller, he's a lot more closer and intimate with these guys on the defensive side of the ball. And then bringing in a guy like Spavital to run the offense and really be the head coach on that side of the ball. I think it was just the perfect cocktail. You had guys that understood coaches that understood what this season meant and what it had to be. And finally figuring out the right personnel from the O-line grouping to making sure you had the right quarterback, the plays, and then getting people in space to make plays on the offensive side. But when I think about what this team was able to do, I felt confident after the Colorado game. I hate that we lost to Colorado.
Yeah.
We're one win from being in a totally different discussion. However, it reminded me of Colorado last year, who went up against USC or Stanford, and they were up 29-0 at halftime. Stanford comes back and wins late in the game. It was just a young Colorado team. Although this is Dave Aranda's fifth year being with the program, I just felt like it was a young team. As him as DC, with Spavital being in his first year, and they just had to work out their kinks. We took a bye, and I thought we won the bye in preparation, detail, and focus. And, we went on a hot streak. And so I was always a big fan of Aranda when the season started. But it came front of mind when we played Colorado.
What's that like when you have – I can't imagine the elation and the camaraderie and the connection that just gets stronger as you continue each week winning and winning after having such a tough start. Have you ever had an experience like that where you start off, poorly and then people kind of give up on the team, people outside the building, and then you finish strong? What's that like?
Yeah. I mean, I had a couple of, I had a 4-8 season and a 7-6 season my sophomore and junior year at Baylor, where we got on a roll and, we won all these home games and we go beat Texas on the road in 2010. We become bowl eligible for the first time, and that confidence bleeds over into a recruiting class. It bleeds over into a really good off season of preparation and detail and focus. And we started out the season the next year. We beat TCU, who had just come off a Rose Bowl victory, and we felt really good about ourselves. And then we dropped three out of four games, to A&M and Kansas State as well as Oklahoma State, and it just felt nasty in the locker room. But we had guys that had been there before, knew what it took to get over it, and we just went to work. Like, we didn't change anything. I got good friends that are in the NFL, and they're going through a lull right now, and they just say guys need to play relaxed, loose. And as you can tell throughout the season, the team started playing a lot more loose and fluid. And that's confidence starting to set in, but also trusting the work and preparation that you put in. I mean, I tell my kids all the time, you don't get somewhere by accident. I hate when I talk to someone and they're like, well, I'm going to just, whatever happens, happen. I had a high school coach that said, there's three people in the world. There's people that make it happen, let it happen, and watch it happen. Which one you're going to be. And this year, Dave Aranda and staff, they made it happen.
How do you as a player, if you get that, because that's got to be tough when people say play more relaxed. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's got to be an environment the coach sets. The plays. It's not the play. I don't think Spavital after week 5 and week 6 is putting in a new install. From what I've looked at and watched, and I haven't broken down any film, but it looks like a lot of variation of the same plays. Even on the defensive side, a lot of the pressures were variations of what we've seen earlier in the season. I think you just start to feed off of leaders. And when we needed big plays, there were guys time and time again that just showed up. And the sideline felt it, and the stadium felt it in some games. But at the end of the day, you just got to trust your preparation. I mean, you're there for a reason. You just don't happen to wake up on Saturday and you got a game. And so trusting your preparation. I'm a firm believer that you never rise to the occasion. You always revert back to your training. So whatever you train and you prepare to do is what you evidently eventually see on the football field.
Talking with Terrance Gannaway right now. Terrance, when you look, this blew me away, and it speaks to what you're saying about Dave Aranda getting closer with the players. You look at some of the lists that come out, and I'm not saying these are like official lists, but from what I've seen online and stuff, it says like only 3 or 5 guys have entered the transfer portal from Baylor. And when you look around the Big 12, there's many more than that from other schools in the Big 12, some of which are headed to bowls. Right now, coaches and stuff coming and going have to do with that a little bit. But what does that say about the team and the program? That only 3 to 5 guys so far have entered the portal.
Yeah, I think there will be a little bit more attrition, but to your point, I think we are to date. We have less guys in the portal than any other Big 12 team, and it's buy-in. You're going to come and get coached up. We're going to expect you to be a young man. And we're going to expect great things out of you, and we're not going to renegotiate what we already committed to. And so what Aranda has done is gotten closer to the player. He's calling these schemes to fit his players' strengths, and they're only going to get better on the back end. They're only going to get better. We're bringing back a linebacker, all-conference linebacker. The defensive line is going to get more hungry and ready to go run, and we got running backs in a stable. So when you think about the recruiting and the guys we want to come back, this team is poised to make another great run in 2025. So who wouldn't want to be a part of that? I know Baylor's NIL is probably not the top of the Big 12, but what we can offer is that you're going to get a great degree. I have 2 degrees from Baylor. One I'm still paying on. The other one, the other thing is you're going to build relationships for life. And the tragic thing about NIL and the transfer portal now is I still talk to, Robert Griffin, Lanier Sampson, Phillip Blake, in some of these guys every other week and just check in and talk shop. But there was a relationship that was forged over a 4-8, 7-6, and then a 10-3 season. Now with these guys leaving, it's hard to build those relationships and camaraderie. So when you get a veteran team that's going to bring back a bunch of guys like Baylor, I think the Big 12 should be on notice.
Travis, Terrance, that is a great point. When you mention the relationships that are forged over 4 years of being on the same team, you just don't see that today anymore. And I appreciate how you say it's tragic, because it is. Before I let you out of here, I got to get your thoughts. You're explosive on the offensive side of the ball, and somebody who's become explosive for Baylor is Bryson Washington, a kid right up the road, really, from Franklin, Texas. And I had called a Baylor game a few years ago, and he was a scratcher. He wasn't playing, and I remember asking Coach Aranda, like, what is maybe it was Jeff Grimes. Either way, one of them said, like, you've got to see this guy play. Like, he is, like, right now he's like a wild horse. But, like, when we harness that, it's going to be something special. And dude, like, watching him play, like, I know the offensive line got better, but he just moves the line of scrimmage with him when he's not running in space. As somebody who played the position and knows it so well, what are some things about him that make him unique?
Well, I just think he has incredible balance in knee drive. When you think about a running back and taking some of the shots that he's taking, he just bounces off. He stays up. He drives his legs. Him and Pendergrass both have been extremely impressive. And as the O-line goes, so does the offense. And, my biggest pet peeve earlier this season is that we did not run the ball. When I look at this team compared to some of the teams that I was closer with, the 2012, Baylor Bears with Nick Florence at quarterback, we went on a spell where we couldn't get things going. Then next thing you know, we beat, number one Kansas State. Lake Seastrump was running the ball well. Glasgow, we had a great 1-2 punch. Took a lot of pressure off the passing game. Nick Florence started to flourish. But when I see Bryson Washington, the guy just refuses to be tackled by one person. And then he's taking shots. Guys are not wrapping up. Where some running backs, they get tripped up and they're falling and then they slamming and hitting the ground, wishing they got 2 to 3 more yards. He's getting those yards. And then next thing you know, he's leaning on someone else, carrying them for another 3 or 4 yards. And then by that time, the offensive line is rallying up, pushing the pile. It's just really impressive to watch. And when you're talking about a running back that runs like that with grit, determination, it galvanizes the sideline. And those O-linemen, no matter what the weather is, how they feel, they're ready to go back, line up, and do it over and over again. So Bryson Washington was a leader on the field for us. I can only imagine the type of leader he is in the locker room, on the practice field, and in the weight room. The guy's got a very, very high ceiling, and he can break every running back record at Baylor if he wants to, and if the game allows him to. So the thing I worry about with anyone is these guys have great seasons, and then we got a Drake Dabney, great athlete, but he wants to get paid a little bit more money.
Yeah.
If Bryson Washington wants to stay at Baylor for 4 years, he'll break every record. And, maybe a statue out there for him. He could be an Ashton Genty. He's that talented. And I think we're having some of these guys come back and keeping the core team. It should be a special season for him next year as well.
Okay, so I have to ask you this. 2011 Alamo Bowl MVP. That game was a signature game, or signature win, really, in Baylor football history, just because it was the first bowl win since 1992. You score 5 touchdowns, just take over the game. And Baylor needed every touchdown, right? It was 67-56 was the final score. Do you ever look back on that with an immense amount of pride, right? Like, wow, like I assisted in putting this program or helping get them back on the map, because now, even though Baylor has down years, there still is, you guys restored a higher standard, and you specifically in that game. Do you carry a great sense of pride with you about that?
Yeah, absolutely, and a great sense of gratitude. I mean, I played on a really good team, and I was just a byproduct of the environment that we built as coaches and players during that time. I am so grateful. I kid with Robert. If I got the East Texas Heisman, the trophy from the Alamo Bowl. Me being from East Texas, we call it the East Texas Heisman. But if Robert handed me the ball more that year, I might have won the Heisman. But it is, but it takes those guys that come in that are overlooked, that don't care about anything else but working. We don't work out, we outwork. We outwork every opponent. And that's what was so special about Baylor at the time. Coach Kaz and the strength staff were phenomenal. And they probably lied to us about how fast we were and how strong we were. But on the game field, we believed it. And next thing you know, we were out there having a ton of fun, and we were winning games. So immense amount of pride, but a ton of gratitude for the people that paved the way for me to have an opportunity to go to Baylor, but also the team that we went to work every day, and we just never, slacked on renegotiated what our expectations were. We wanted to set the standard, and I think that's why, during that era, we achieved so much success.
Terrance Gannaway, man, a lot of gratitude for you taking the time to chat with us today, man. I really appreciate it, and hopefully I can get you back on here sometime in the near future.
Pete, anytime. Good luck, man. Thank you so much for having me. Happy holidays if I don't talk to you before Christmas and New Year's, but enjoy and be safe.
All right. Thanks a lot, Terrance. Have a great rest of the day. Happy holidays to you too.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
There he was. There he is. Terrance Gannaway, dropping some serious knowledge on us. We got another guy in studio now ready to drop some knowledge. Dan Ingham is back. He's got a nice jacket on too. You got to check this out. The Pete Souza Show rolls on, presented by Slovacek after this.